Good evening. Oh, hey. Is this thing on? Welcome to our July meeting. We actually had a closed session earlier. We're not in closed, but we will officially come out of closed. So do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are out of closed. Now I need a motion to certify that we discussed only those items related to the closed session, which were personnel. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All that opposed? Motion carries. So we are now back in our public meeting. I would ask you all to join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so you may have seen Ms. Shreves scurry out here earlier. She is en route to another commitment, but she is going to ask to participate via phone, so Dr. Frazier is making the call. Ms. Shreves, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. I believe you had a request.
Yes. May I be present for a portion of the meeting via phone?
Okay, so Ms. Shreves has requested to attend via phone. Do we have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, Ms. Shreves.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, consent agenda. You've all seen the consent agenda with our meeting minutes from our strategic plan work session as well as the June regular meeting. If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All that oppose? The motion carries. All right, next up, Dr. Frazier, we have recognitions.
I do not have any formal recognitions. I just want to be able to say thank you. And thank you, one, to board members that participated in our first strategic plan meeting. I thought that went extremely well. So I look forward to the work that comes out of that. Also want to thank our division leadership for the hard work that they've put in this summer. Folks have been working hard as we prepare for the upcoming school year. Our custodians and maintenance team, operations team have been working hard in our buildings, and our roofers are working hard, and they anticipate the roof will be completed this week on the elementary school.
Oh, wow.
So just thank you to everybody that has been working this summer.
That's great. Yeah, summer seems to be flying by too quickly for all of us. Okay, presentations. First, we have spring athletics and extracurricular activities. Ms. O'Neill.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Okay. So, we had a very big spring, very good spring. It seems like all of our teams did very well. Our baseball, even the teams that our records we didn't think they were going to be that great. We ended up turning out, going to regionals, and so it was really cool. We got a lot of players that made first team, second team, districts, regions, so I'm very proud of all of their effort. Baseball, you see here, just to mention a few of the names: Daniel Duke, first team, third base; Evan Meyer, first team outfield; Eric Reed, second team, first base; and Jeremy Ware, second team, second base. Very proud of them. And softball, same thing. I will say that softball, from what the coach tells me, and of course I've only been here a year, that this is the most wins that they've had. So congratulations to them. We did get some district honors there. We got, Maddie Graves was all region, second team outfielder, so we're very proud of them too. And what's really cool about that is we weren't really sure about the program. Of course, we had to shut down JV because we didn't have enough, but we did have a lot of dedicated girls that come out for varsity, so very proud of them as well. Okay, outdoor track and field boys. They did it. Our track and field team is doing amazingly. We have some wonderful coaches that dedicate a lot of time to them, and it shows because we do have quite a bit of athletes on the district honors and the region honors, and that is attributed to our wonderful coaches and the time they spend with the athletes. Pole vault was a big, I guess the newest event that we have that we've exceeded in, and that's why I want to talk about the indoor sports and just a little bit indoor track. But yeah, they've done a really great job. Same with the girls, we had a record breaker, Amelia Lathan, and of course we had quite a few girls, all district, all region, and just a great turnout. We have a lot of JV JV runners coming up, JV throwers coming up, that so we have a projected really good future as well. Varsity soccer. I was so impressed with the girls soccer team. We didn't know if we were going to have a team in the beginning of the year, to only having just enough in the beginning, and then we did awesome. They did such a great job. Again, look at the amount, every slide you'll see, we have numerous kids that made all district, all region, and when you don't start, when we start with the feeling that we may not have a team and then you turn out and they're successful, it's just a really good feeling. And that's, the girls really poured their heart into it. The coaches did a wonderful job. Boys soccer, district champs, they were phenomenal. Same thing, I mean, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but just everybody did such a wonderful job this spring. Again, we have numerous district honors and region. I don't want to read out every name for you, but super proud of them. They worked very hard, and just almost made it to the end. So again, proud of them. Hall of Fame ceremony. This was a very cool event for me. I got to talk to a lot of the older guys that are from West Point numerous times a day for 3 months. And it was really great to hear the stories of old West Point and the times they had in school. And I think this is a very great program that we do for athletes, because just the memories that flooded back for them. 80-year-old people can remember. I can't remember what I did in high school 30 years ago, but they can remember what happened 50, 60 years ago. So it's really neat to experience that. So we had an event, we had the reception, and then we celebrated them at the Spring Sports Awards. Would like to give a congratulations to Jeremy Ware for receiving the J. Earl Jarrell Sportsmanship Award. He's very deserving of that. His coaches spoke very highly of him. Can-do attitude, always, yes coach, anything you need. Anywhere you want to put me, that's the kind of athlete that you want. And for Reese Kirkland, overall, superior athlete. Nobody works harder. I see him lifting, I see him out there throwing from an hour before practice to hour after practice. He really has done a great job and put it in. And I think a lot of that is also attributed due to the indoor track season too, because he really got it going and got to experience, when we went to see him throw at Liberty University, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And for a kid to be able to experience that, I think it set him for a great future. And we had a couple athletes that signed to go to college. Very proud of them. Maggie Haynes will be cheering at Virginia Wesleyan, and Evan Meyer will be playing baseball at Mount St. Mary's. So we had a signing ceremony for them, and so they should be, almost on their way, I guess. And I just want to say thank you so much to our coaches. It's a thankless job sometimes, and there are many hours that go into coaching, and there's a lot of behind the stuff that happens, and I just want to thank them for everything that they've done. And that's all of that. As far as y'all wanted me to give you a little bit more info about the indoor track. What specifically that they would like to do, I don't have a presentation or anything specific. They would like to start off with 3 indoor meets, and they're going to be on Saturdays. I would assume, and maybe it's not right to assume, Chris, you can help me with this, that maybe the parents would take them on Saturdays, so there wouldn't be need for transportation, because there's only a couple of places where they would have these meets. It'd be either Boo Williams or the Arthur Ashe Center in Richmond. But if the need arises, there may be a chance for a very small either van or bus or the activity bus. And they are run around $250 a piece on the events. We would like to host 3 polar bear meets, which is something that we would do here in our school. Not charge a fee, but to go in together on the timing system, which we have a timing system, so I'm assuming that would go into our pocket, but I don't know enough about the timing system to really understand how that works, but I can let you know. But that's something that can happen, but it'll give them a lot of experience as well. There aren't a lot of indoor meets, and it's not like they don't have like a district schedule or anything like that. You just kind of pick and choose which ones you want to go to. But based on the performance in the spring, the coach says that there's no way that these kids will not make regionals and states as good as they're doing. So just be prepared for that, hotel rooms and transportation. So I just want to give you that additional information, and if you can let me know, if it's a go ahead, if I can gear up for that, I appreciate it. So that's everything I have. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, SOL testing data. This is Dr. Hauser.
Good evening, school board members. Ms. Rich and I are here tonight with some information, our results as far as our spring SOLs. Before we get started, let me just say that we are just amazed and impressed and proud of where we are. I know that most of you remember the graphic that I used as far as where we are going over the bridge. So we're right smack in the middle now of what we were calling our COVID comeback. Now that doesn't mean that we don't have plenty of work to do, and we've been very busy this summer. In fact, I think we're more busy in the summer. But anyway, making a plan to address those areas that we've identified as needing support and needing help. And in a division this small, it's a very difficult conversation because sometimes when we think about weaknesses, we're talking about specific groups of students and specific teachers, and that's just how it is in a small division. So when I say that we're proud, I'm using hyperbole, but we also understand that when you see this, you will see, like we have, that there are areas where we have much work to do. And we're excited about some of the people in the audience tonight who will help us do that work. So we're using different graphic. We're trying to move into modern times. So the bridge is gone, but we're probably on the 4th step. So we're getting there as far as the work that needs to be done. So when we look at science, I'm always looking at the trends, but also realizing that when you look across at 5th grade, we're talking about totally different groups of students. So we're not comparing oranges to oranges and apples to apples. These are completely different groups of students, but we're happy that the data is trending upward as far as the year we were mostly back from COVID, and then last year and this year. There's still a lot of work to be done, and it's very challenging with science and with social studies, because as you all know, those are isolated subjects as far as, biology is taught 1 year. So you come into it start to finish with the curriculum and the content. So we're working our way up as far as that goes. And of course, we have a chance to remediate those students and they can retest. But that's where we stand.
And I'll share with you the 2023 SOL data is preliminary data at this point. So it's raw data. In August, the VDOE will put out more information regarding accreditation. So there's information to include like students that transferred to West Point late, but did not pass their SOL, that those tests will come out of our pass-fail percentages. In addition to students that are growth measures, so students that did not pass their SOLs last year, but did pass their SOLs this year, will get growth measures that are added into our data. So we'll be excited to be able to share some updated values with you next school board meeting.
So in other words, it could get better.
Yes.
So we're just waiting on all of that to be finalized.
And then biology, and then you'll see another slide when we get into social studies and science. Our teachers are so in tune and wonderful at knowing what their students need. Like, they're on the front lines of telling us, we need additional support in this area. And that was something that we saw this year. So we've talked a lot about the collaborative model, especially at the middle school, high school this year, as being an area where we're growing. And biology and geography were 2 classes that are verified credits. The teachers came to us and said, we need support for our students. And so in November-ish time, we made some adjustments to the master schedule to get support in those classes for students that we knew needed additional support. And that is something that we're looking at continuing to support next year.
Right. So we'll go in, as Mrs. Rich said, from the beginning of the year with those additional teachers in the classroom, with the core teachers. So social studies data, you can see that Virginia Studies and Civics are hitting it just out of the park, and there's much work to be accomplished with world history and geography. So those are areas that we've identified as needing improvement, and have been working hard to put some things in place for next year. So while we are proud of the 68% that passed, we also recognize that that there's 32% who did not, and are working to make sure that we can get those students back on track and they can remediate and retest. And that number with geography, the reason why it doesn't have the N is because this year our number of students who were taking the geography test was a little bit higher because they did not pass their world history. So they're trying again with geography. So those are students who do not have a strong track record as far as the test, but and you might be thinking to yourself, well, you've concentrated on reading and math, and that is absolutely the truth. We have had interventions, remediations in reading and math that we have not had in other subjects, and it's time to sort of change course with that and make sure all of our subjects are online. Or online, or in line, online, every line. So we already have that.
And another
sorry,
thing,
Stacey.
that's
Sorry.
okay. Another thing to keep in mind too for our students for our verified credit classes, for students that have individual education plans and 504s, but have difficulty showing their knowledge on SOLs, there's also other tracks for them to be able to achieve locally verified credits so that they are able to stay on a standard diploma track.
All right, so math, you can see that our progression through the data is mostly strong, trending in the right direction. We do have a few areas where we need to do some work. So this is going to be talked about a little bit in the future slide, but of course one of those areas is 6th grade math. And fifth grade math needs a little shoring up too, to get back on track with where we were in 2019. And we're working on that, but all in all, we're very pleased. As you all know, some of our middle school, high school kids did have 2 blocks of math, or 2 blocks and 2 blocks of reading in some cases too. So those kids, we saw results. We saw students who were part of a math intervention. All of the students through 7th grade passed their SOL, the ones that were in the math intervention. Of course, we only had 1 class in 7th grade math intervention, or perhaps we would have even gotten a little higher with that 92%. But those who were in our intervention for that additional 7th grade math block, every single student has exited intervention and passed their SOL. And we're gonna, you'll have an opportunity to ask us questions in a little bit, or you're free to interrupt us too, but I don't want to go forward and not give you a chance to talk.
I'm sorry, I'm good.
Okay, okay, I'm like, all right. And then reading, same trends, thankfully, more or less. Well, actually, no, it's a little bit on par there. So as far as looking across at the data, you know, some strong scores there with 89, 84, and the 80s and the 88, but I'm looking for a little growth in some areas. And like I've stated previously, of course, we would like 100% in all areas. So we're just working on getting there as best we can. But as Ms. Rich said earlier, the individual growth we've seen with some of our kids, particularly in those interventions, like the ones who are classified as non-readers, unable to read, illiterate, are now literate. So that doesn't always show up on this test. So, you know, we always want to see our students pass the SOL because it counts and we're accountable for that. But we also want our kids to be able to read. And it's sometimes hard to prepare them for the test and teach them to read because, as you know, once you get into 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and up through middle school and high school, we really stop teaching kids how to read. So we're getting back to that, making sure they know how to read before we give them a reading test and expect them to pass it. So it's a little bit of uncharted territory for here in West Point, but we're going to take it on. Yes. Sorry. Okay, so I guess I'm asking for a little bit of trust. This is one example we pulled out, but of course we're able to identify many areas where we need to work with teachers and we need to work with students. But this is one area that I know I explained last year. It's a very similar problem, but the top 30%, and sometimes it's even more than that, it could be 30 to 40, we recommend going into Math 7 rather than Math 6. And so all of the 6th graders who are in Math 7 passed the Math 7 SOL. But it makes that number look even lower than it is. So it should be somewhere between 76 and 80%. But we also know that that's not the answer to the problem because we still have 20% that we were worried about not passing. But like I said earlier, we're also talking about one teacher who's new. We're talking about transition of those students from 5th grade to 6th grade and all kinds of other things that we're trying to simultaneously tackle. But that's the reason it's not in the 70s. The reason that it's not in the 80s, 90s are perfect are things we're trying to work on. I hope that makes sense. And that's an ethical dilemma. You know, I've been in other places where we have had conversations, should we not accelerate students in math? Because it'll mess up your accreditation if you have numbers across the board that are in the 40s. And the answer is, what? Of course you still accelerate students who are ready to move on in a content area because that's the track they need to be on for college. And you never get to any of those, you know, pointer pathways or dual enrollment if you didn't. So part of that is you acknowledge the slam and you move on. But the state hasn't, 25 years of SOLs and the state hasn't figured out that you're punishing kids to get higher numbers sometimes. But we have to just stay on the track and trying to do the right thing for kids. So and yes, we're very happy that the preliminary accreditation results will have us, we met them all for this school year. Of course, we want to exceed all of the expectations and standards, but we're happy where we are, but not satisfied and are ready to do some additional work as we move forward to the next years. So please ask any questions that you have. you will try to answer.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to commend you and thank you for meeting these students where they're at and supplementing reading needs, but also encouraging and challenging the math needs versus targeting how you're approaching the situations towards these results. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a challenge because I feel for divisions around us who can't get their 3-year average if they accelerate anyone. And I wonder how much people know about that, parents. So like as educators, we have to sit around the table and have difficult conversations. And at the end of the day, you just have to do what you think is best for the student and their learning needs. You just have to, like you said, Mr. Evans, whether they're gifted or identified special ed or whatever their needs are. So we're trying. It won't be for lack of trying, that's for sure.
Our schools have been great too in terms of trying to set up our students for the transition. We've been doing some additional things. Kaylee Waldrop or Powell.
Yeah, sorry, she'll always.
Yeah. Started working with students every Friday in 5th grade in terms of just trying to prep them for Canvas a little bit more. So, because that's a big shift as they get into 6th grade and organization and keeping an agenda and starting to plan for some of those things that they're just not used to at the 5th grade level in terms of preparing them for 6th grade. Jay is a 6th grader, so we're continuing some of those transition pieces because we understand that that's a big shift for them too. So I think that those things are important also.
And even though Ms. Rich and I are the ones standing up here right now, there's everyone at the school board office level and everyone at the building level, the administration, the teachers, the support staff, everyone is really working so hard to be innovative and come up with ideas and solutions. And anyway, it's called work because it's work. Some days we go home tired and we're like, well, that's because we were working. Oh yeah, this isn't called vacation, it's called work. So other questions?
I need as well commend you guys on, I know you guys are working extra hard and I know your heart and I know your passion. But a lot of these scores are really concerning, and as a history teacher myself, the history scores were like, what? Seriously, I remember I actually student taught under Mr. Bradley, and I think he had 100% pass rate every year. So really concerning. I would like to know, I guess I have like several follow-ups. So one, you said teachers expressed concern that they need more support with geography in November. So I would like to, what exactly did they ask for, or what did they get, and what are we doing moving forward, especially for world history is the first one they take, correct, here at West Point? It's the first one they take, so that's their first opportunity to get the verified credit?
No, it's world history.
Yeah, world history.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so if they don't pass the world history one, then they'll have to take the world geography SOL, right? So, but even at 68% is pretty, and again, being a history teacher, I know the world history SOL is the easiest history SOL that the state offers. So, I guess I would like to know more details. If you don't have it today, that's fine. Of what are we doing specifically to address the needs, not just in the history, the science. I feel like like you said, reading and math tend to always get the attention. And us social studies teachers especially are like, hey.
Yeah.
Right.
Students need to read, obviously, do social studies, but they still need the help there. So I'd just like to know more information on that. But to follow that up as well, I hate the SOLs. As a teacher of the SOL, I hate it. Seeing the stress that it causes teachers and students, I don't think it's always a good gauge as to where they are, which is what you were expressing. Can we have some, I'm sure you have it, other data to show us the growth that you were referencing? So the students that were, considered illiterate, that now are literate, etc. Because everybody looks at SOL data, and parents are gonna see this, and community members are gonna see this, and whatever. They're gonna be like, "Oh my God, did you see the SOL scores?" And I know that that's not a true reflection, as you do, of what the work is being done. So maybe if we could have the data presented that more accurately shows the growth for these students.
So, I mean, we'd be more than happy, of course, to share that with you. I think my only concern maybe would be like in what forum, and maybe even that's something that we could fit into like our strategic plan working, because we're open to like all eyeballs on deck as far as that goes. So I don't know, like I know I personally, you tell me what you want, but I personally would like to communicate about these things, because you all and your varied perspectives bring some ideas to the table. We realized that very strongly during our strategic planning when I was like, let them keep doing it, they're doing the work. So I think about maybe like how you would want that. Like I feel like it doesn't need to be just a paper, that you're looking at, but maybe more of a conversation, about the work that's actually happening. Also, I know that you all know this. So we're talking about a group of students who missed part of 5th grade, all of 6th grade, and then part of crazy 7th grade, and then came back. This year is our most normal year that we've had, and this is that group that we're talking about. Now, I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm just reminding of the context, because those students, as hard as we've tried, and where our hearts have been, we've tried to get them re-engaged and reacclimated to school, and we have struggled, like many schools around the country and world, to re-engage them, because they lost some fundamental time with us. So I think that's part of it, because, and I believe that, I'm not just saying that, because math and reading have more of they're more of cycles year to year of repeat. Where history and science, besides the scientific method and maybe research and primary documents, is different every year. You're studying different people. Different people throughout history and events throughout history. So there's a lot that needs to happen. We do have Afternoon Academy, but we don't have any interventions in place as far as that. So what the teacher said was, we have students who need behavior support, who need academic support, who need emotional support, who don't know how to communicate socially. Can you please put a certified teacher or interventionist in the room with me so that I don't lose anyone? So it's really very sad. I'm just thankful we're here, because other places, here it's a struggle, and we can identify the problems, but we're in a solid place and have people in place to do the work. So in the middle, we readjusted and we pivoted. I hate that word. But we, were able to, kind of whack-a-mole, just put somebody in there to really help, because our teachers here hadn't experienced kids who, get up and leave the room, and different things that were going on. Like they didn't get that repetitive school training in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade.
And we were fortunate enough to be able to put a special education teacher in the room.
Yeah.
So she was able to support them with reading comprehension and vocabulary. So she was familiar with the students. So that was definitely a benefit for us. And then in terms of your world history question, that is in the master schedule for next year. So you're right, the world history test is easier. So that's the way that we want to go about trying to be planful about that, is hit world history first. And we have a plan to put special education staff in place for world history starting at the beginning of the year.
Because that's I guess a good question too, is how many of the students that didn't pass have the 504s or the IEPs, and I know that a lot of times when meaning schools are trying to come up with services, this student needs reading services, so they'll go into English class, but not the history class that reads a whole lot. So that's good to hear that, so perhaps if we take that into account, we'll see some improvements as well. But yeah, I know trust me, I'm in the classroom. I know it's tough out there, but.
And you just hit the nail on the head. When we look at, and I'm just saying this because there are contributing factors. It's not like this is the reason. It's far larger than that. But we know that that last year's 8th and 9th grade class has high needs. we know that we have friends in there who require a lot of support. And the ratio is wacky. Wacky, I'm sorry, that's a clinical word. But it's wacky in 8th and 9th grade. And that could be a contributing factor, but it's not the whole picture either. And we don't ever want to say that just because you have, a certain need, you can't pass. We're holding those kids to high standards as well. So it's just like, these are such complicated problems. It's so one-dimensional just to look at the screen. Because all of us did walk-through Wednesdays, and we were in all the classrooms on Wednesdays with the building leaders. And there were opportunities where history teachers and other staff were stopping to say, let's talk about the concept of conflict. And that's huge, running through history. But what is going on in our class? Like, why are you yelling at her when you walked in the room? And why are you, throwing your pencil? So sometimes my observation of what we've seen over the past few years coming back is that there's sometimes something really important that has to happen that doesn't involve the subject you're teaching. And I'm just happy our teachers aren't like moving right along, objective. And we even have that as far as we're reinstituting classroom guidance through middle school because of that prevention component, not just responding when people are in conflict, but teaching them how to work through it. And looking at history through that lens, like, well, what would have happened if they hadn't had these skills, these leaders or whatever. So these are the answers that we're willing to give right now, but the problems are so complex right now. So we're just trying to hit it as hard as we can, all of us, and you all too.
So I do want to note in the staffing piece, while it's very important to be able to push those special education teachers into classrooms as much as possible, I think the other thing that we saw with our schedule is when you're using your interventionists or you're using paraprofessionals, you need to use them with some consistency. And so if I'm going to put a paraprofessional in the class, then they need to consistently be with the teacher so they're able to build relationships, they're able to learn the teacher's style, they're able to truly work together as collaborative partners. And so with that, you have to be intentional with your scheduling. You cannot just, I'm plugging this person here, plugging that person there. And I've seen as a former special ed teacher, as a former special ed director, I've seen it work. Where folks, if you pair them right, even if it is a teacher assistant or paraprofessional, it can work. But that you have to be able to have that dedicated time and really build those relationships within the classroom so both parties know what those expectations are, and then they can make that impact with students. So definitely thank you to our team. I want to thank Dr. Hauser and Ms. Roach for their hard work. The three of us had a 2.5-hour instructional meeting on Thursday. Was it more than 2.5 hours? Where we are truly talking about and making that plan for this upcoming school year. And so then the plan is to then take that information to other leaders on the team, and then to our teachers. So I'm excited about the work that's to come, and we know the scores are not perfect, but definitely we're moving and we're pointed in the right direction.
I knew you were going to get that in. That pointed in the right direction. Is there anything else before we sit down?
No, thank you both.
Well, it's a privilege working with your children and the children here and the adults as well. We wouldn't be anywhere else.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Mr. Walker, safety updates.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here this evening to just update you all on our research and some findings we had when it came to the weapons detection, that you all kind of guided us in the direction to kind of do some more research and gather some information. You all seen this presentation. I'm going to go through this to talk about our process and what we went through over the last couple months. And so the first thing we did was we started by just reaching out to school divisions in our area to figure out what are they doing currently. Are they using a system? Are they researching, trying to gather information on systems? And during that process, two systems kind of came out of that, and that was the OpenGate system and the Evolve system. We had OpenGate representatives actually come out to West Point High School on May 31st. They did a demonstration of showing us what the system looked like, the setup, the process, and then obviously how it operates and what it will do for us here at West Point. And then we also, on June 28th, our staff went down to Colonial Beach High School, who currently is using the Evolve system at their high school. They only have one system in their division, and that is located at their high school. And we went out there to kind of see a demonstration from people who are actually using it in their school division to see that system in action. And then we also met with the Evolve staff representatives on July 5th to gather more information regarding their system and obviously pricing and things like that. And as we go through this, these slides, you'll see the breakdown of pricing for each system. We also provided for you all links, and I hope you all had an opportunity to kind of go through those links and see some of the videos and the information that you can gather from the companies in regards to each system and how they are different, but how they are somewhat the same as well. The OpenGate system here for pricing, as you can see, it's about $17,570 for each device. And then when you get put in 4 devices is what we're thinking for 2 entrances for each school. And then obviously all the training, the test pieces, the things that kind of come along with that are the total for those devices would be about $74,834.70. The Evolve system, again, I hope you got to see that information to see how that differentiated or was different from the OpenGate system, and were able to familiarize yourself with that. And then again, just providing you the pricing here, just so it kind of makes a little sense. So we have the single lane system. So for 2 of those, for an indoor system, it would be about $250,000, and then they have the outdoor system, because what we asked in these when we're asking these questions is, can we use these for our outdoor sporting events or anything like that? And so for the Evolve system, they did differentiate between 2 systems, one being an indoor system and one being an outdoor system that would work outdoors. And obviously seeing the price there at $530,000 for those 4 devices, 4 systems. After, that's all the information I have for you. I've kind of given you a lot of information and videos for you all to review prior. At this time, I can try to answer questions along with my team of the things that we found out through this, and then kind of, if you're looking for a recommendation.
So the OpenGate system can be both indoors and outdoors. You don't have to have a separate, but for the Evolve one, we would.
Yes. And I don't want to speculate on why. I think, obviously if you saw with the Evolve system, there's a lot more when it comes to like the screen on it with the pictures and taking the pictures of the individuals walking through and those items. So I'm assuming that they would have to weatherproof a lot of that part of the system.
So in your, when you went to Colonial Beach, right, they have the Evolve system versus your meeting with OpenGate. I guess just what's your view on the 2 systems? What was your impression of them? Pros and cons?
So they both have, to be honest with you, they both have the same pros and cons. They were both detecting the exact same things, and then a lot of the false detections were caused by the same things, such as Chromebooks, metal rings, and binders. So both systems were hitting on that. The difference in the systems itself, though, however, is one is indicating us that it's hit something with just a light, right? And so we're having to kind of then go search, and then where one is taking a picture of the individual walking through, and it puts a box on the screen of where that might be, that item could be. But when it came to the detection itself, they were detecting the same things. And then obviously it had the con where they were, maybe mishitting or false readings. It was the exact same problems when it came to binders and Chromebooks. And so one of the things that we've heard too is that maybe that Evolve system gets better over time with reading those false readings. However, talking to Colonial Beach, they felt that it didn't get any better. Chromebooks were still hitting even over the year, and the same binders were hitting throughout the year as well. So it was just one of the things that you just had to deal with on a daily basis, and knowing that was going to happen.
And in conversations with other superintendents, some superintendents have put in place where students remove those binders and remove Chromebooks from their bags before walking through the systems, and that's something that we could do.
So was it like every Chromebook and every binder, or was it just like random?
I
Every now and then.
think every Chromebook and every binder. And I think actually when I say binder, I think they did say the size. So it's like the one, is it the 1 inch?
Was it 3 inch?
3 inch, that's right, 3 inch binders. It was the larger ones, obviously because it could emulate something different.
How long had Colonial Beach had this in place?
They got it this past school year. I think they had
They
for.
said they've had metal detectors for years, and they just switched over to the weapons detection this year.
I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the superintendent, when I spoke to him, said they've had it since February.
Yeah, they did not start the school year with them.
What was their rationale for going to weapons? Did they have, was it just a more efficient machine or better? Did they detect any weapons?
They did not go into that. They did say that they would provide you data to it, but they mentioned 300 binders, Chromebooks, laptops, umbrellas, glass cases, and that was the exact same thing that OpenGate said as well.
Yeah. What about the process of implementing, managing? Did they talk about any challenges or learnings from that?
No, I mean, I don't know if you want me to share, but both of them said they would be on site for training. Both of them require training. I know OpenGate, when I talked to them on Thursday, they will be here the first 2 days of school to make sure there's no issues. And the setup, whenever OpenGate came, it was 4 minutes to set that up. Then he's like, all right, once it turns green, you're ready to go.
And the open gate can easily be moved to another location.
It's very light, can be moved. You know, I wouldn't say Evolve is as easy to move to different locations. So if we're thinking about, you know, obviously having a basketball game in a different entrance, or out at the football field for a football game, you know, obviously OpenGate was more mobile and easier to move around.
It looks like Evolve is based off of a 4-year program, whereas OpenGate looks like more like one-time fees. Are there annual aspects with OpenGate, recurring fees, or it looks kind of, like I said, it almost looks like OpenGate was set up at a one-time fee. That's it, or are we going to get follow-up fees from them?
No.
Do we know?
Evolve is basically you're leasing almost for 4 years is kind of the way they described it.
Okay. Versus OpenGate, it's that one-time fee for the life of the equipment.
I think you have a 1 year, there's certain warranties on it, but you always have training, you always have product support.
Okay.
So if the machine breaks or is faulty in those 4 years, they bring a new one?
For Evolve.
Yeah, from that, like, it's true lease versus you buy it.
I don't think they use the word lease, but that's,
Yeah.
as we talk to them, that's kind of what it seemed like, that after 4 years, then you have to updates and all that sort of stuff.
Plus it has the screen and it has all the,
Yeah, both of them
extra
kind of run off a
technology
laptop, so you can have a laptop in the main office, you can have a laptop out front, it's just a matter of what you can see on the laptops. Honestly, when we went through it, the price difference was so great, and I don't know that we got a whole lot more out of Evolve compared to OpenGate for an extra $430,000 for it.
I guess Colonial Beach already had a metal detector in place. Did they talk about implementation and any learnings they had from a weapons detection system, from staffing, any of that? Did they share any of that?
Staffing, so they have it right outside their main office, and the principal's there every day, so he mans it every day. And they talked about some concerns with the size of their entryway, whenever they have like deliveries and things like that, because they couldn't get through. And then the Chromebooks, the binders, those were all areas of concern they were not anticipating.
how many students do they have at Colonial Beach? Are they similar in size to us?
Yes, they're a little small. They're a little small.
Okay. And so did they make any comments on, I guess, congestion in the morning, the time? Did it seem to be a concern, or was it just?
No, he said now it's kind of, kids just do it. You know, obviously there was some growing pains the first week or so, which I'd imagine it's going to be anywhere you go. But now it's, you know, they identify the same people who have their binders in their backpacks, don't take them out, and that sort of thing. But he said that the flow was pretty quick. And then when I talked to the folks at OpenGate, he thought if we got 2 each building, that we could probably get the students through in 15 to 20 minutes. Obviously a little longer the first week, but the other thing with both of these systems, I'm not sure we can get either of them in by the start of the school year. So if we're looking at 6 weeks, that's probably the end of August, so we can always start them after Labor Day. As long as they're available to do the training, we get everything in. Something else to consider.
So on the finance side of this, if the board gives directive tonight to say that they want to go with the open gate, which is the $74,000, even if we added an additional unit to do 5, the school division is in a place that we can do that. We would have more concern with the $500,000. So
I'm buying a ticket tonight for the lottery.
I'm
just saying.
I mean, it's a
Yeah, that is
we-
crazy.
and I have
Same
had the discussion with finance, so we're prepared, and also in looking at the state security grant. That grant opens on August 1st, so we would also be prepared to submit for that grant to see if we would get any dollars back from the state in a reimbursement. There's no guarantee, but we would apply for the grant. The grant is due by August 1st, I'm sorry. So if there are thoughts,
I was just gonna ask, I assume that whichever direction we may end up going, we're also gonna be supplementing this with evaluating our points of entry. So the only way this is gonna be effective is that if everybody comes through.
So everyone comes through the entrance way where these are located, right? So after the main part of the day starts, obviously everyone has to come through the front door. And that's gonna be something we have to look at our procedures for, even our teacher, staff. When we exit the building, where we have to enter the building. And so again, it's just, those are things that we're all gonna have to put in place and kind of review and make sure that we have all of that, solid, right? Make sure it's all in place as we implement that. And just reiterating again, this is just another layer of protection for our students and staff, along with all the other procedures and things that we already have in place.
Because we currently students that park in the student parking lot come through the gym. We'll have one there.
The idea would be to have one at the front entrance, and then one by the gym, and then at the elementary school, one at the front entrance, and one right by the gym, for their car riders. So there will be some adjustments on both ends, but talking to them that they felt that we could get more students in and not cause a huge disruption. And I believe there's other surrounding divisions that are going with the open gate system as well, based on potential grant opportunities.
Well, I appreciate the research that y'all did and going to places and having people come and talk to you and to get a better idea about it. I was hoping, I was thinking maybe you're going to give me some big idea as to why this thing is so much more expensive as you Evolve one. It doesn't really sound like there's any justification for it. So yeah, I think open gate is the way to go.
the thoughts from other board members? And Ms. Reeves just had to end the call.
Oh, she dropped.
What do we need to move this to an
We can move it to an
action
We
item?
can move this to an action item and we can vote tonight.
Based on what I've seen, as long as it's, again, part of the inclusive evaluation of all of our systems, I don't have any objection to open gate.
All right, so if there are no other questions, thank you, Mr. Walker. Thank you. Do we want to move this to an action item? If so, do I have a motion to move weapons detection system to an action item?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All that opposed, the motion carries. Let's move that to the end of the list.
Yes,
Is that easy? Okay.
yes, please, then we can just go through the
All right,
process.
so we'll add that as item H, I guess. Okay. Next up, items under study. We have the code of conduct. I see that's also as an action item as well. Did Ms. Ball have anything to present new, or?
I don't have anything new. I just wanted to address the couple of questions that you had the last time. One of them was about the dress code and specifically the length of the bottom. And it is for policy, that is 3 to 4 inches. So that's what we'll be going with this year. And the other thing that you asked about was the attendance, and so I don't have it in front of me, but it did talk about making restrictions on students' extracurricular activities based on poor attendance. And so in the code of conduct, it says that at 5 unexcused absences, 7 unexcused absences, 10 unexcused absences, there has to be an attendance plan. And so as part of the plan meeting or plan that's developed, that will be one of the things that's addressed in the plan. And so that's how we'll address it, but also not, I guess, put ourselves into a box that we can't, that we can't get out of if it's something that is a legit absence.
And are those absences, do they reset each grading period, or is that for the year?
That's for the semester.
That's for the semester, okay, so it's not grading period, it's per semester.
Right. Did you all have any other questions about the code of conduct?
I had asked about cell phones last time, about taking the cell phones, and I wondered if you guys had discussed that in the meeting, the follow-up meeting that you guys had about just take these phones away instead of the first offense given after-school detention, second offense after-school detention. So I was wondering if that was discussed at all.
I think that
I can jump in there. So, Ms. Saunders shared that information was sent out to the school discipline committee. And the concern that the school discipline committee had was is enforcement. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure that whenever that decision is made, that is officially school board policy. And so that way, the central office administration and then school administration is going to be supported when and if parents complain and are angry and upset about that. And so I think that that's definitely something that we can look at. Yeah. But in reviewing the cell phone policy, or what actually our policy manual states about cell phones, I think that policy needs some work before we make that change now in the student code of conduct.
Okay.
And Ms. Schwartz, I'm happy to share the policy with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading the code of conduct, and I know that the leading complaint from teachers at all schools is cell phones. And as a parent, take my kid's cell phone, please. Take their cell phone. And I know that when we implemented the policy at Gloucester, when we took the cell phones, within a few weeks, we no longer had an issue. I mean, every kid now and then, but pretty much eliminated it.
So was that a school division policy?
Yes, that was a school board policy that we can take. This
right.
No cell phone use during school hours, and that they could be confiscated.
So I do believe that the administration, the building level and central office administration would support the policy. We just need to do work on the actual policy. Okay. So we can bring a policy back and have that on the agenda as an item for the board to review. But we are not at all saying that we don't want to do it. We just want to make sure that the policy is addressed.
Gotcha.
If we change that policy, like it sounds like there's an issue with enforcement with the current policy. Is the issue enforcement and consistency, or is it the policy doesn't have enough teeth?
I think it's probably twofold. The way that we were interpreting the policy, I think, was the main concern, I think, last year. And so it says that that students cannot use cell phones during instruction. So the way that we were enforcing it was that they can't use them in the classroom. But we didn't say that they couldn't use them in the hallway during class or in the bathroom during class. And so that was the concern. That was what we talked about the last time, that they can't use it during class time, but they could use it in the hallway during class change. They could use it in the cafeteria.
So the board will need to set what the stance is, whether it is during instructional time, and instructional time, if instructional time is from bell to bell, whether students are in the bathroom or not, or are we going to say that they are not permitted during the school day? So I think it goes back to me. One, I agree that enforcement is key, because no matter what, if folks are not following the policy and if folks are not implementing what's in writing, if you're not following the code of conduct, not following the policy, then we're not solving anything. So that's one piece of it. And the other piece is truly strengthening the policy to make sure that it reads and it contains what the board thinks should be in the policy.
And from my experience too is that taking it away from the student is so much more impactful than, oh, you have detention in 3 days. Okay, whatever. I mean, at Gloucester we write them up and they go and talk to the principal and then they're like, don't do it again. And it's like, okay, and they walk away. I mean, so to me, I think it needs to be, obviously it has to be enforced. If teachers and administrators and people in the building aren't enforcing it, that's a problem, but it has to be something that actually truly impacts the student in a way where they will no longer take their phone out. So yeah, I am 100% on board with rewriting the policy how it needs to be and changing the code of conduct to however it needs to be.
So do you want a draft of a policy at the August board meeting?
Yes. I would like that. I mean,
so we're all
speaking for myself.
Yeah, I feel like we need some more, like, I don't want to say formalized feedback loop, but like, are teachers just waiting for us to craft this masterful policy and then the problem's going to go away? Or like, I'm just confused. Are the teachers saying cell phones the number one problem in the classroom and we need to change our policy? Or are they just saying we need help? Like I think there's a difference there. So, I mean, you just talked about emotional support, behavioral support, like a lot of that stuff we can address. Right. So, I mean, I'm open. Yeah, I'm open to revisiting the policy, but it feels like we need more than just a policy update, a refresh. We need to make sure teachers are on the same page, that we've got buy-in from them, that we've got some support, or parents are going to back it up. Yeah, I back it up. Yeah, take the phone. But I also see it being, I can see some parents saying, you're not taking my kid's phone.
Absolutely.
You don't have that right, and if I want to get in touch with them, I'm going to get in touch with them. So we're prepared for that. How would we deal with that? How did Gloucester have that problem?
I mean, I'm sure they did. I wasn't in the office, but the way that it worked, to just give you how it worked, was the first offense, so I take the phone, we could not hear it or see it during the school day. So if they didn't have it silenced and it was in their backpack, it went off, then we could take it. We would put it in a little Ziploc bag with a little tag on it. Security would come and grab it from us, the teacher. So it was always inside of the student. They would go put it in the safe, and then at the end of the day, at the
Exhibit A.
the first offense, the student could get it back at the end of the day. They could go at the end of the day and get their phone. Second offense, parent had to come get it. Third offense, parent had to come get it, and then it was a meeting with the principal or administrator. And I can tell you the number of times it actually got to a third offense were slim. There's probably a few second offenses, but and we're at school. Gloucester's 1,500 students, so a lot more to deal with there. So I think if you have a reasonable policy, meaning if we want to go that route, first offense, the student can get it back, and hopefully that was enough for most kids, that was enough to jar them. And in fact, it also scared all the other students because they saw their friend's phone got taken away, and they're like, I don't want my phone taken away. But I think that I think that teachers saying cell phones are a problem means that they need more support from us as a board with policy, and then to back them up on what they need to do in the classroom. I can tell you these kids, I can just tell you, and my daughter is included in this, and I'm sure Levi will be included in this when he gets older. You telling them, oh, you're gonna get detention for that is really not enough of a deterrent. It's not. They're hardwired to have those phones. So.
Ms. Paul, do you mind walking through sort of how the offenses are set up right now? Because the way I'm reading it, first offense is after school detention. Second offense, the device is confiscated, returned at the end of the day. Third offense, it's confiscated, returned at the end of the school day, and that's a phone conference. And then subsequent, it has to be in person. Did I understand that right? So you're saying, I guess Leslie, I'll make sure I'm on the same page with what you're seeing as being successful in Gloucester. Essentially, you're taking that second offense situation and making it a first offense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, there's no after school detention.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
it goes immediately to confiscation instead
Yes.
of, okay. Just trying to boil it down.
Do we have a lot of that got to step 3? So we weren't really enforcing the policy.
The teachers would give a detention, and I do think that was helpful. I definitely think that was helpful in their classrooms. It didn't address the issue of them having out of class time, missing the instruction, and so that was the reason for.
So they'd get in-school detention.
Yes.
And
that's not helpful.
And the
After school detention.
Oh, after school.
what we've heard from teachers, from our teachers, is that they don't want to be the ones that are responsible for taking the phone. So, it's sort of like you were saying, as a classroom teacher, if the student had the phone out, you say, give me your phone. And the students gave you the phone, you put it in the bag, turned it in, security came and got it. Our teachers have said that they don't want to be that person. They don't want to be the person to take the phone from the student. They don't want to be responsible, and they don't want to have those struggles with students if they are not willing to get the phone. So that was in the feedback that I got
the liability.
That was the feedback that I got when I asked from your questions.
Not to be against teachers here, because I'm a teacher, but that is part of our job. And if you're saying that we have a problem with cell phone use in the classroom, but then you yourself don't want to do what it takes to get rid of the problem with cell phones in your classroom, then that's a different conversation I think that needs to be had. Was it pleasant all the time to tell a kid, hey, give me your cell phone? No, but I had them put it into the bag, I sealed it, it laid where they could see it until security got there, security grabbed it, and that's it. So I understand that there's nobody wants to have conflict with anybody, really, hopefully. And you certainly as a teacher don't want to have conflict with your students in your classroom when you're trying to build a rapport. However, you also have to set the tone for your classroom that you're going to be following the rules. There's expectations for how you behave. There's things that aren't allowed, and if the rule says no cell phones, then no cell phones. So, I mean, we can discuss it further and come up with a policy, but I mean, I don't really like that answer from those teachers. So,
Is there an in-between? Like, is there, you can't put lockers in every room, but put organizers where when kids walk in, you check your phone in you drop it in the whatever, and you go sit down. Like, to me, that's the issue.
I think teachers do that anyway. A lot of teachers utilize that anyway. I have a shoe organizer with numbers, and they have the option of putting in there, but without there being, I don't want to say consequence, but I guess without there being some sort of consequence for not putting it in there.
I'm saying the policy is you put it in there.
Okay. But what if they don't? What if they refuse?
Well, then there's the consequence.
But then there's still the same pushback from.
I think it's a little different though than like stopping class to the middle of class versus okay, we need to get started. I don't know. I don't deal in classrooms. I don't know.
So what
I know cell phones are ubiquitous, and there's studies that say teachers teachers can use them to be engaging with students and part of the lesson plan, whatever. Like I don't think we can just create a policy that's going to wave a wand and make cell phones go away. But I think we need to be unified in our approach with policy, implementation, enforcement, all of that. So I think we've got to do a better job of understanding like what the true issue is and what we can do to solve it versus us just dictating the policy and telling them, hey, go fix it. You know, team approach, right?
So what I would ask is that you will allow us to meet with teachers once they come back, draft a policy, and then be able to get, it will be a quick turnaround, but we can start looking at some sample policies and get that in place. So we can have a draft policy at the August school board meeting, and also be able to share some feedback from teachers around cell phones and provide you all with that information at the August 15th meeting, and then a decision can be made then whether or not the policy wants to be changed or whether or not we continue with the policy procedures that are currently in place. So we'll look at some surrounding school divisions, put the policies in place, and I might just have Dr. Hauser do a group with teachers to get feedback
You betcha.
on cell phone policy.
So are we keeping code of conduct as a action item, knowing that we could potentially change cell phone?
I would say we keep the code of conduct as an action item, and we hopefully approve the code of conduct tonight.
Knowing that we've got potential.
But knowing that we will have potential change that comes forward.
And so there will be additional adjustments in the code of conduct just for staff to make it appointed at some point.
And of course, those changes won't come before the board, but you will also see that there were some code changes from PDOE, and so those code changes have been made. You'll see those at your seat, and so that's really just going in, eliminating a code that that PDOE no longer uses, and also just changing some of the words. So you will see that the things that are in red have been changed in the code of conduct. And that's all based on it. That all links back to that report that you all also received. That links back to the DOE codes.
Thank you, Ms. Ball. Okay, Mr. Leach, Narcan.
Yes, Narcan policy.
Let's talk about Narcan.
Sorry.
I don't think I can say that.
Well, that's why I put it in parentheses, just because I figured that's a lot easier. So Narcan's been the topic of discussion throughout the year with our Health and Safety Advisory Committee, talked to our SROs, our school nurses. So this policy that I bring before you has been supported by them. So we've also talked to the chief of police. What we're trying to do is put 2 doses in each school to be kept in the clinic. Training will be provided before any employee can administer Narcan. And then we'd also update the school crisis plan to make sure that that's implemented as well. The policy that you see before you is very similar to surrounding divisions, but also gone with this to have it. One of those things hopefully you never have to use, but it's good to have in your possession. So the SROs will be trained, nurses will be trained, and we probably have at least 1 or 2 backup staff from our school offices trained as well in case the nurses are out.
And how soon could we get this? Like, there's no supply chain issues with
I'm
Narcan.
not aware of any supply issues.
We've already reached out to Three Rivers Health Department. They provided us with training dates. They're actually now on a rotation to provide training monthly. So we've already reached out to some of our staff members to move forward with getting some training done. So we're trying as quickly as possible because we knew that this was something the board wanted to see in place based on our other conversations around school safety.
So would it be beneficial to move this to an action item?
Yes.
Does anyone oppose? If not, do I have a motion to move the Narcan to an action item?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All that oppose? Motion carries. So we'll have that as aye after H-N. All right. VSBA policy updates, Dr. Frazier.
So policy updates. We still have the policies that have been on the docket for quite some time. I did ask board members to share some thoughts around cultural competence. I did not receive anything, but I did provide you all, was it yesterday, with some updates around cultural competence to satisfy one of those policies. Also did some research, and most of the other divisions did accept the policies with they accepted the policies as is from the SBA. So that is, I was asked to do that research. There was one division that did not accept the policy as is from my research, and they had a totally different policy that was a little concerning to me. But that is my update, and I would say if we're comfortable moving this to an action item tonight, that we would do that, and we would have a new group of policies to bring forth to the board at our next meeting.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense to move forward.
So thanks for doing the research. Two of the bullet points are the same on the cultural competence.
The creates and sustains.
Yeah, the creates and sustains. So would this have to then become like a separate policy, or is this just the definition? Like where would this go? Where would this information go?
So that would just be our working definition of cultural competence.
Okay.
So when we're looking at evaluations, because it also ties back to the superintendent's evaluation, but also when we're looking at evaluations for teachers and staff members, that's something that we possibly could put in our strategic plan, but not necessarily. We don't need to necessarily have a standalone policy, division policy on cultural competence. It would be my recommendation to add that to our strategic plan if that's something that we agree to.
But right now, for this purpose, it's mainly tied directly to the superintendent evaluation, because that's a category, right?
Well, I'm fine with this definition for the evaluation of superintendent policy. My objections to the other two still stand.
Then do we want to move this to an action item? Yeah, I mean, we need direction either way, so do we have a motion to move the VSBA policy updates to action item? So moved. We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All that oppose, the motion carries, so VSBA policy will be now J, is that right? On the list there? Ever growing action items. All right, well, we're going to take some action here, it looks like. All right. Okay, so on to action items. All right. We got a Snickers. First, expenditures and receive our revenue reports. Are there any questions, Dr. Frazier, related to expenses?
There was one question, I sent the response.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I have a motion to approve the expenditures and receive our revenue reports.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose, motion carries. Next up, cafeteria expenditures. No questions. Do we have a motion to approve the cafeteria expenditures as submitted?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Second and a third. If there are no other questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All that oppose, motion carries. Personnel recommendations.
So board members, you have the most recent personnel report in front of you. That personnel report includes recommendations for recommendations to accept resignations, appointments of instructional personnel. I'm not looking at the most recent.
Here you go.
I have a lot of papers over here, I'm sorry. We also have to accept our contracted services, contracted staff, substitute transportation staff for the school year. We have a change of contract for one employee and contract authority for the superintendent.
All right.
So I would recommend that the personnel report be approved as
discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve the personnel recommendations? They're late breaking and most up to date. Status. We have a motion, do we have a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose? Motion carries.
All right, Mr. Chair, I would like to take.
This pause, definitely. I think we got some guests here.
Take the opportunity to introduce two individuals this evening that are joining the Pointer family. They have gone through the interview process, and these two rose to the top. And we are proud to say that they are coming here to West Point to bring their expertise and their knowledge, and to bring the skill sets they have from other school divisions to help us learn and grow here in West Point. So first, I would like to introduce Ms. Laurel Bird. Ms. Bird, will you please stand? And so Ms. Bird is coming to us from Matthews County, where she has been the principal of Thomas Hunter Middle School in Matthews, and so we are excited that she will now be the lead pointer at West Point Middle School High School.
I'm excited. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You are so welcome. So we will be sending an announcement out about Ms. Bird, hopefully tonight, if Dr. Howell and I get the technology right. All right, and next I would like to introduce Ms. Arthea Dockery. I'm sorry, I pronounced her name wrong 100 times. I'm working on it. Probably with that. Ms. Dockery also has interviewed and rose to the top to have someone with her level of experience and expertise in school leadership, and also someone that has been passionate about wanting to enter the field of human resources. I'm already starting to take those courses and expand her knowledge. She was very impressive, and so we are elated to have her join our team as our new Director of Human Resources and Communications. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
We will be sending out communications to our school family and our school community. Hopefully tonight. If not tonight, it'll be first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah, welcome. Two big pieces to our puzzle here. So we're excited to have you and glad you want to be with us. Okay, next up, donations. Any questions about the donations? If not, do I have a motion to approve the donations as submitted?
Second.
A motion, do I have a second? No other discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose? Motion carries. Tuition student requests and homeschool students. List. Any questions around that? If not, do I have a motion to consider approving the tuition student request and the homeschool student request? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose? Motion carries. Okay, student code of conduct, as we just discussed. So we have a motion to approve the 23-24 student code of conduct as submitted. So do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. If no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose? Motion carries. Technology resolution.
So each year the PDOE allots a certain amount of money to the school division for technology purchases, and so we have to have a resolution in order to use those funds. And so each year we have to bring a resolution to the board for the board approval, and then that goes towards our budget for the year and our technology funds. So I would just ask for board approval tonight.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I have a motion to approve the technology resolution. So moved. Or so moved. Yes. We're just rolling through them. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We've been duly seconded as well. Okay. And if there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose? That motion carries. All right. Next up, we have an action item to move forward with the recommendation on a weapons system, and I believe the recommendation was the open gate. Open gate. So the recommendation was to move forward with procuring the open gate system to implement in our schools. Two, maybe potentially 3 at the high school, or I guess potentially 5 total, depending on grades. So 4, maybe 5. So I do have a motion to move forward with open gate. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Okay.
We have a second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose, the motion carries. Okay, action item I, Narcan. I can't say the word. We have a motion to move forward with the Narcan policy.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
No other discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose, motion carries. Section J, VSBA policy updates. I think these have been on the books for a few months now. If there's no other discussion, do I have a motion to accept the policy updates as presented?
Discussion.
Yeah, we can, or and after the motions if we like as well.
Yeah, but my question was going to be, is the aggregate or the individual?
Yeah, well, as presented, it's all 3. I think just 3, right?
It is, I mean, you can pull.
If you want to pull, if there's a, we could have a motion to pull them separately, if that's the desire of the board.
I mean, we do them separately.
Okay, we have a motion to break out the 3 policy, the SBA policies separately.
Let's give the clerk 1 second.
Okay, so I'm not even going fast.
They're gonna be messed this month,
So, Mr. don't give us a hard time about minutes. Mr. just trying with it.
I've done nothing but praise his note taking. So.
So we
So I need
have,
to come down a little bit harder? Okay.
all right, so we have 3 policies. Oh wait, did we?
There was a motion, there was no second.
Okay,
To break it.
thank you, Mr. Leach, keep it straight. Do we have a second to break out the VSBA policies and vote it separately? We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose, motion carries. So we'll go with, how about first policy CBG, the definition of cultural competency and the evaluation of the superintendent. Do we have a motion to accept that as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All that opposed, motion carries. Next up, we'll do policy DA, management of funds. Do we have a motion to accept the policy as presented? So, in order to take action, we would have to have a motion. Do we have a motion to accept the policy as presented?
Is it open for discussion?
Well, so the motion will be to vote on the policy and then we'll discuss.
Remembering that once it's open for discussion, he then can vote it down if he chooses to.
Yeah. So if there's no motion, I will make a motion that we accept the policy as recommended for DA. Do we have a second? So no one wants to vote on it.
The motion was to.
The motion is to take action. The motion is to accept it as presented. So then you would either vote yes or no. But in order to get to that point, we have to have a motion and a second. Okay, so we have a motion. It's been duly seconded. Now, discussion. Sounds like we might have some discussion.
It's the same thing I said the last 2 meetings. So, I mean, I'll say it again for the sake of a different audience. I would be leery of making I know it sounds like nitpicking, but I think it's good saying maybe instead of is, that is part is carte blanche. And we have experience in this district, some people that we may not want to have carte blanche, and not that that's Dr. Fraser, but it could happen in the future. So I don't want to have policy set forth that leaves that door open.
I guess the feedback on that discussion, that in past, as the policy has been written, has it felt restrictive? Has there been anything that's been restrictive as far as for the superintendent's position being able to execute at the highest capacity as it was previously written? Or would there be any reason why it was kept the way it was previously written, that would be a problem?
So I would have to say in my tenure as superintendent, no. No, it has not been an issue. But I would also say that boards change, and so there's a one board may have an expectation, and then another board may not have that same expectation. And so I would say for protection of the superintendent, that if the superintendent were to make a change to a line item and these board members not be here and other board members are in place and that change is made, then it potentially could be an issue. So that would be the only thing that I would be concerned about. But honestly, it's whatever I will support and do whatever it is the will of the board.
All right, any other discussion? All right, so all in favor of accepting the policy DA, right? Is that what we're on? Yeah, DA.
Yes.
Financial as submitted, please say aye. Aye. All that oppose? Okay, so we're locked, so we will have to wait till Ms. Shreves, I guess. So the motion does not carry.
So we'll bring that policy. We'll bring that policy back at the next meeting. If I have a director before that meeting to change or to do anything else, to change any wording, then just let me know before the meeting.
And then the last policy was DGC, school activity funds. Do we have a motion to accept the policy as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, it's been duly seconded. Any other discussion?
Same as before, but I just think I don't really quite understand the purpose of removing this as oversight from the superintendent. So I don't know if you have any insight on that, maybe to clarify it, but it seems like it should be something that the superintendent is responsible for.
Right, so the based on my conversation that I had around the policy, the oversight is still there because the report still has to be filed with the division superintendent. And so with the principal being a direct report of the division superintendent, the division superintendent is still included in that process.
I hear you, but the wording in here says what it used to say, or what it could still say, is it is the responsibility of the superintendent to ensure the school activity funds are being appropriately used and managed. That's completely eliminated, and all it talks about is filing reports. It removes that responsibility as outlined specifically. So I feel like there could be like a workaround by removing that language.
The school activity funds are still part of our budget and reconciliation process,
Right, and they go through audit processes, and all of those checks and balances.
It's
All of those checks and balances are still in place.
So it's redundant, is what you're saying, based off all the other things. It's a redundant statement in this one.
I would say so. Because each school year, even your school activity fund. So we go through a whole school division audit each school year, but then you're also going through each each school is going through their individual audits. And so that information is then filed with the superintendent, and the superintendent is responsible for making sure that those audits happen. And so I believe that it still is then the responsibility of the superintendent to make sure that all of those boxes are checked.
Any other questions, discussion? If not, all in favor of accepting policy DGC as submitted, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Leach, are you good? I feel like I need to take a breath. All right, there's quite a few action items there. All right. Okay, informational items. Anything?
Items were just shared for information, and I updated the discipline report for the school.
Do we need to do something regarding the school board meetings that are during the breaks?
Yeah, so we
Was
have
that
two.
highlighted?
Yeah, those are highlighted because the November meeting and the December meeting both fall on break weeks. So we can either look at dates now or as we get a little closer.
Now.
The December meeting is typically held earlier in the day for staff to attend. That's the budget meeting. That's usually the last week of school before winter break. So that I think will be December 13th or December 12th.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to do we want to, I guess,
We'll look at calendars and bring it back to the office.
at the next meeting, we'll do that. Yeah, because Laura's not here either. So, yeah, we can just put that as action item.
And by that time, I will also get with finance to make, because we also want to make sure that in changing meeting dates, that it also works for finances as we have bills to approve to be paid. So I'll get feedback from finance and bring that to the board. Sorry.
That sounds good. So in addition to that, it looks like we will also have summer project updates and school opening update here. Wow. Hard to believe. Next meeting is August 15th. Oh, yeah. No. See, I told y'all needed a breath. Wrong with that?
We need to have coffee and Snickers bars.
I know, I did. I missed my afternoon coffee, so I'll blame it on
Coffee
that.
and Snickers.
All right, if there's no other business, we are, I don't need a motion to adjourn. I can just, that's part of me kind of missing right here, right? We're adjourned. Thank y'all.